Hey guys, what's going on? Paul here. Welcome back to another Cardano live stream. We are live this time. This is take two. I was talking for 3 or 4 minutes and turned out I hadn't hit the go live button. So do let me know if we are live this time. I see Josh is even crying at it when we realized that it wasn't live. But welcome anyone who hasn't been here before. Generally, the three of us and Pete does be with us as well sometimes. Go on to talk about the latest on Cardano. What are the latest main topics? And the best ones I find are when we get comments from you guys watching. So the more questions we get, that drives the conversation here. So basically what it is to drive the conversation whatever direction you guys want. I always enjoy these conversations with these guys. I learn a lot. We didn't get to do the last one. It coincided with consensus, which I'm looking forward to getting an update from both of these guys who were there. But generally, we try and do it every second Monday. Josh, Farid, welcome. And thanks once again for coming on.
Thanks for having us. I missed this, actually. I was at consensus and feeling like, I wanted to be, here talking to you guys about what was happening at the conference, because it was a very insightful conference for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure being on the show. Appreciate you, bringing us back on. As Josh mentioned, pretty fruitful event in consensus. Got to hang out with him and the Cornucopias team, and it's always a good time. So I think there's a lot for us to chat about there as well. So looking forward to today's conversation.
Yeah, I think let's kick it off with consensus and kind of what you guys seen from the over. It's definitely not a Cardano event, and Cardano would definitely be the minority. Even talking to Josh there, some of the reactions when you say you're building on Cardano, be good to go over that type of stuff and kind of your key takeaways of crypto in general and maybe where Cardano sits in that as kind of after that. But in general, crypto, what kind of time are we in, or what is the general consensus is the word coming to mind, but I don't mean the pun on it, but Farid, what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, sure thing. I'll keep this pretty brief, and I'll let Jot speak because he was there from an exhibitor standpoint. So for me, it was really, really interesting just to see, number one, how many people were in attendance. I think it was over 15,000 members, obviously spanning across biggest blockchains. You've got Polygon, you've got Tron ecosystem, you've got Bitcoiners, Ethereum community members, Cardano community members. So it was really good to see, number one, how many people showed up. But the number two, how nice people actually were. I mentioned this in a Twitter space not too long ago. The sentiment that I receive via Twitter versus the sentiment that I saw in person was completely different. And I'm not sure if it's because you're actually talking and seeing people in person as opposed to sort of hiding behind a pseudonym or whatever you want to call it online, but it seemed like there really wasn't a lot of animosity between different ecosystems. Again, I was approached by a couple of projects outside of Cardano, and they were like, "Hey, we'd love for you to stop by our booth. Here's some merch. Here's some, some things that we can talk about." And they didn't really care about where I personally was from. So overall, I think it was very well. I would definitely have to say, the after parties and the events that took place after the actual main consensus events were some of the biggest and most enjoyable that I've had. Shout out to Wes, Rand, and Devrin for putting on the Rare Evo Social. I was able to go hang out there. Everything was sort of on the house. They had a lot of Cardano-based projects there. Got to hang out with the team from Book.io. Got to hang out with the team from JPEG.store, members from Apex Fusion, members from Cerberus. I mean, you name it. That was sort of like the Cardano community get together, followed by day number 2, where Big Pay from Atrium hosted another Cardano-based social event. And that was really awesome. Again, got to meet a lot of people that were already in the Cardano community. Pivoting back over into the regular event, we saw the Cornucopias game with arguably one of the biggest booths there when it came to the gaming space. A lot of them were sort of like joined with other gaming projects, but Cornucopias was different in the sense that like they had their own area. A lot of people were stopping by there. They had a professional videographer there, of course, Josh, Scruffy, Matt, Ben, Josh, the other Josh, I should say, and Rob are also there. So really cool to, again, just kind of see familiar faces at the event. And then we also had a booth with Husky, Genius Yield, Intersect MBO, and a few other members or representatives from Emergo. So the presence there, I think, from Cardano was there. Could it have been bigger? I definitely think so. I know that, comparing this back to 2022, we had an entire Cardano section, right, where you had projects like Meld, Cornucopias, and a lot of others there. And then, of course, Charles was actually there in person where he did a demo for Lace. So it was a little unfortunate not to see Charles there. He mentioned the fact that he wasn't invited. But to me personally, I mean, you don't need an invitation, just show up, make your rounds. And somebody as big as he is, I think he could have contributed a lot, even though he tends to get a lot of flack. So that was, I think, the only piece that I think we could have done better, is just had a bigger presence from the 3 founding entities. But it does sound like they are planning to have a pretty big presence when it comes to, I think it's token 2049, if I'm not mistaken, which will be taking place in Singapore. So overall, again, really solid event. If anybody missed it this year, I definitely recommend to show up next year. The amount of networking, the amount of friends that I made, and the amount of fun that I had, I think is it's up there compared to the Cardano based events. But I'll close out on this note. Rare Evo's already sold 5x more times the tickets that they have this year than last year, right? So it also sounds like Rare Evo's going to be stepping up their game as well. So my expectations are going to be pretty high. But Josh, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I'll share my insights from a Cardano perspective. Like as I was there working the booth, I was there most of the time, and like 90% of the people that I talked to were people that had never heard of us before, us being cornucopias. And it was an enlightening experience to recognize that, like, cornucopias, anybody that's touched Cardano before knows cornucopias, I think, generally speaking. It's the biggest gaming project in the Cardano ecosystem. And you go on Tap Tools and it's on the first page. Every other person out there has mentioned cornucopias in some way, shape, or form. But 90% of the people that I'm talking to at Consensus had never heard of us before, had no clue what we were, where we were building, or anything like that. So when I mentioned Cardano to these people that have never heard of us before, they're like, "Oh, really? You guys are on Cardano? That's interesting. That's incredible." That they were almost like surprised to hear that, like, there was something of this quality that was being built in the Cardano ecosystem. And it kind of like flipped a switch in my brain that helped me to realize that, like, Cardano does get a lot of flack from mainstream crypto. And I think it's a lot from like KOLs and stuff in the industry. And I think because of that, people don't bother looking too much at Cardano. I think that awareness is a thing, like that with a lot of just regular casual crypto users. It's not that they hate Cardano. It's just that, like, they don't have those sources in front of them that are telling them about things that are happening on Cardano. And the founding entities, and that, it includes like Charles or the Cardano Foundation or Emergo, they're not out there promoting any particular projects that are building within the Cardano ecosystem. But those are, the ones that have the most attention in mainstream crypto. People outside of the Cardano ecosystem might be following those entities, but they're not following us, or they're not following Farid or Pete, learn Cardano. They're not following any of those people. So the people that are talking about Cardano and what's happening in the ecosystem, that information isn't reaching those casual crypto users out there. So that was really insightful to get a feel for, like, what the issue actually is when it comes to the attention and the audience that we could be reaching in mainstream crypto spheres. I think there are people that could be interested in stuff that are being built in this ecosystem, but it's just not reaching them properly.
Okay, it's really interesting to hear the feedback giving me FOMO when you talk about Rare Evo and how it's going to be even bigger this year. That's even more FOMO for me to deal with. Both of you are going to Rare Evo as well, are you?
Yep, I will be there.
Nice. The feedback on Cardano in general is, if you look at Twitter, then everybody outside Cardano hates Cardano. And that's that Cardano is a shitcoin, and all of this is the perception you get. So when you talk about, when you actually meet people outside of Twitter and outside of the online world, and you're getting more positive feedback or just people that don't know what's going on, I think that's a good thing. And a lot of times we get stuck in the bubble, especially when you're just on social media, if you're on Reddit or you're on Twitter or whatever it is, you get stuck in that bubble where you think that everything outside of that is against Cardano. And it's just that a lot of people aren't educated about what's going on. Yes, Cardano does have issues. I'll be the first to say that. And we do need to up the scaling side of the roadmap. I think that is definitely going to be a big push when we get Voltaire. There was updates on that actually in the last week, so we might touch on that soon. But I think it's good to hear that there is more positive sentiment, or that when you say, oh, you're building on Cardano, they're like, oh, interesting. And I think we talked about this in other streams, that the way you get people more interested in Cardano or what Cardano has to offer isn't about shilling Cardano or shilling ADA. It's about talking about the projects that are actually building on it, like Cornucopias, like World Mobile. I see there was a partnership with Palmyra. Tommy mentioned it there. And actually, Josh, you told me I was training my kids' football team before this. So I haven't been online for 2 hours before this. So I see I missed that. I'm going to have to get the updates on what exactly that is. But I think that's where you can really help give people exposure, and good exposure to what's going on. Because if you try and throw something down, it's better than Solana for this, or better than Base for this, or better than whatever it is, that you're instantly attacking the chain that they are committed to, or whatever it is. So there's better ways, but it's good to hear that feedback. And from a perspective of a project that was actually presenting there, it's good to see. And I see Rob is in here checking up on you, Josh. He's in to see if there's any leaks. I'm sitting down with Rob and the other Josh tomorrow, actually. So I'm going to try and pull as many leaks as I can during that call too. But any other feedback from consensus then, or before we move on to the next few topics?
I mean, yeah, consensus was a great experience, not just from the Cardano side, but it's like, I think that it makes me more enthusiastic about things like multi-chain projects, like, Book Token, soon to be Stuff Token, Cornucopias, other projects that are like doing more of that outreach. I think that is going to bring more attention to Cardano, and I've been saying that for over a year now. But I think that we're going to start to see the fruits of that come in this next year.
Yeah, I think as with the likes of Cornucopias, when they are over on Base, people get interested in the project. Look, they have a lot of users over there and a lot of new people joining up there. They start to like the game, then they're going to start to explore other areas of it. And that's how I think we can bring more people into the Cardano ecosystem. And look, you're never going to have everybody. One chain isn't going to do it all. So if you can get exposure from projects reaching out and then coming back in with parts of it, and that is like having part of it on Cardano, part on other chains, and not just all of it being somewhere else or all being on one chain. I don't think you will have that many projects longer term that will be just like that. But if we look at, I suppose, some of the market stats of what's been going on, generally we try and start out with this, but we'll take a quick look at what's been going on. If I can bring it up here. And I think guys should have it now. I'll try and resize a small bit. So actually, since this tab came up first, it was good to see this during the week that USDM crossed $3 million. So they had one mint of 2.15 million. And I don't think that has been moved anywhere yet. I was looking earlier on Tap Tools and it hadn't been moved then. But this type of stuff is good for the ecosystem. And I know we covered USDM a few times. People really want to see USDC. I want to see USDC on here as well. But when USDM launched first, the liquidity was very low. Look, big picture, 3 million is still small, but it's great to see it hitting these types of milestones. It was only 1 million there 2 weeks ago. And then this mint of 2.15 is really encouraging to see. And what we need is more opportunities created for, if people have stable coins on other blockchains, then what can Cardano offer them? Or why would they mint USDM right now? What can they actually earn on it? Because people aren't really going to mint it just to have it sitting there. They want to be able to do something else with it, with the expectation that the bull run could really take off. Yet people are a bit hesitant to be too deep into stablecoins right now, unless there are some fairly decent incentives to do so. So we look at tap tools, we'll refresh this to get it to load right. And you can see for the last, let's look at the last 30 days actually, because it is 4 weeks since we had this. MinSwap still the dominant DEX, 71%. I done a video earlier. Actually, I didn't post it yet, but I think for the last week, MinSwap was about 69%. So still MinSwap is by far the biggest DEX. Looking at numbers for the last 7 days, Axo should sit in here, I think, in number 2. It comes in just ahead of Spectrum. When I was looking at for the week, I think Spectrum was 8 point something million. On my rough estimations, I think Axo is probably 9 to 10 million for the last week. So it's good to see activity starting to go over there too. Spectrum coming in after MinSwap, Sunday Swap, Wing Riders, Wi-Fi, Splash, Sunday V1. I think Splash are starting to open up now to allow anybody to create pools on it, and at least the projects that they have in the DAO should be putting liquidity over there. So we should see that number starting to go up. It's interesting to see that Wing Riders do have more users than Spectrum. And for me, I think this is down to the batcher fees, because for small, you can see the volume is a lot less than Spectrum, but they have nearly twice the users on it. And I think that's down to the batcher fees, because for smaller orders, they give discounts on batcher fees. As we have SundaeSwap V3 getting more liquidity, you have Splash getting more liquidity. The batcher fees on them are going to be even smaller. So I'd say you'll start to see orders going through them. I know from working on the aggregator that for smaller orders, we still see lots of it coming up as Wing Riders when you take the fees and everything like that into account. The trading volume for 30 days down 8.9%, TVL down 12% in terms of ADA, which that's the figure I kind of look at right now instead of the USD price. USD price is dependent on ADA. This is the one really that you look at. How much is the Cardano ecosystem getting into DeFi and putting their ADA into it? As we get more stable coins, then you can look a bit more at the dollar value. But right now, I think it's still in ADA. Overall figures, they're not where we would like to see them. We'd like to see more liquidity in it. Things like USDM will help that, and getting more incentives in DeFi should too. But what's your guys' thoughts on the overall market?
Yeah, I'll jump in here pretty quickly. Yeah, I think a lot of people are, if they're not heavily invested or if they weren't active before this sort of like last run with Bitcoin, they probably stepped away, right? And I kind of sense that as well. As a creator, I'm looking back at some of my stats here on the channel, dating all the way back until October of 2023. There was a huge spike where month over month, the channels were growing. A lot of people were consuming a lot of YouTube content. And this is actually the first month. I actually take that back. May was the first month where numbers didn't surpass the previous month. So for like the past 6 or 7 months, it seemed like viewership, engagement, just the consummation of content was on the rise. Now it doesn't seem to be there. And I think that's also been reflected in sort of like the Bitcoin price, right? You take a look at the Bitcoin price. When we hit $72,000, everybody was, over the moon the first time. And then now we're back at around the same range. And it seems like nobody really cares anymore, right? So I think sentiment is sort of fading out a little bit. People are getting bored. Therefore, that's, shown there in the TVL specific to Cardano. But I don't think it's just Cardano. I think it's all the different blockchains there as well. Diving into the specifics, I want to talk about what you mentioned earlier about stablecoins there. So I got to sit down with Amar Singh from Emergo at Consensus. And what you mentioned about stablecoins, they are aware of. So they know, okay, it's one thing to have stable coins on the network, but unless there's an incentive for people to hold it, people aren't going to hold it, especially right now where Cardano native assets or Cardano native tokens are the ones that are going to be appreciating against their dollar value, right? So I think it would have been great to be in stables as the market was sort of going down. Now it's probably a better time to be more risk on, where you want to be out of stables, but they still understand that we want more stable coin adoption. So I'll be releasing an interview. I'm actually waiting for them to give me the green light, where he talks a little bit about, opportunities in which there's going to be passive yield generation when it comes to stable coins. So we talk about USDM, we talk a little bit about USDC, we talk about USDA, which I think there's going to be some announcements coming out about that as well. But it's really good to see that, Emergo is aware and that they're open-minded, right, in terms of providing more opportunities for anybody who's holding stable coins. That's been probably the biggest thing that I've seen that's sort of hindering adoption. As we get more opportunities, I think there's going to be more people that want to mint, especially when it comes to USDM. So just wanted to touch on that there. I think, again, it's sort of general across the board that a lot of blockchains seem to just have lower activity over the past like 2 or 3 months.
Okay, yeah. I'm looking forward to that interview with the Emergo guys on stablecoins. Definitely something will be good for the ecosystem and USDA. There's been hints of announcements coming and stuff like that. And to me, the more we get, the more the better. The more stable coins, obviously, the more that come with the liquidity and incentives kind of leads that. It's kind of which comes first is the hard part to figure out for projects, but they're all needed. Sorry, Josh, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, no, I was just going to say, I haven't paid a ton of close attention to like charts, numbers, metrics, or anything, because I think at this stage in the market, I'm not yet interested in it. It doesn't feel like it feels like we're getting close to an altcoin season, but like we're not close enough there yet to where like the metrics that we see about users in the Cardano ecosystem, I wouldn't expect to see stuff starting to heat up quite yet. I think is what I'm getting at. But we're getting closer, and I think as we start to see altcoin seasons, especially starting in Ethereum ecosystems and some of those other mainstream areas, I think that's where we can start looking at metrics and start to see things heating up in this ecosystem where people actually start to take attention to what's happening here. So I am enthusiastic about things like USDM. Like I'm really excited to hear that they're reaching the millions of dollars in liquidity before they even hit retail markets, and before they've even like reached their complete milestone of actually getting into every state in the US, as well as some of the areas of Europe and stuff they're going to be in the foreseeable future expanding into. So I think that I'm very enthusiastic to see where a lot of these things are headed, fundamentally speaking. So, yeah.
And if I could just add one last point there, let's not forget the recent partnership between Emergo and GSR, right? So a liquidity and a market maker, that was also another topic that came up in that interview, right? Is that there's already projects that are dealing directly with GSR to get liquidity. Now, we didn't get specifics in that interview, but I could probably guess that projects like USDM are one of the first where they're like, hey, like we've got a working product. All we need is the second piece of the puzzle, which is liquidity, right? So as time goes on, as GSR finally begins to implement their game plan, I would assume that a lot of the liquidity and market making services that they provide will be going towards things like stable coins, specifically like USDM. Last but not least, you actually pulled up the comment I wanted to address on, which is from Doctor here. Thanks for always showing love and support here on the channel, Doc. I appreciate it. Some of these trading pairs, right? So I think there's a proposal coming out from Genius Yield, and there's also been, again, talks with Emergo and some of these different market makers to see what can we do to now begin denominating trading pairs based off of stable coins as opposed to ADA, right? When everything is denominated in ADA, it's almost sort of like an incentive to hold ADA and to therefore trade against ADA. But as we get more of these other pools, there's going to be more of an incentive or more of a reason to actually hold some of those stable coins as well. So I don't think it's too far of a future where we begin to see a lot more pairs denominated in stable coins. I personally would actually prefer that over ADA. But of course, it's going to take time. So shout out to the Genius Yield team for sort of taking that challenge on head first. And I'm there literally to support them along the way. I think they've been doing a really good job in terms of listing more stable coins and also them providing incentives if you just trade stable coins on the Genius Yield DEX. I think we need to see more of that, very similar to how we've seen MinSwap also incentivize their stable swaps. Right. So I think, again, we're starting to see more and more DEXs begin to focus on incentivizing holding stable coins.
Yeah, I think that's an important point. And yeah, this is the comment I was going to go to after as well, was talking about more trading pairs against USDM or against the US dollar, like people looking at the tokens against that. And I think as the ecosystem kind of matures here, and as we get more stable coins, we'll start to see that. We'll start to see more trading pairs against that. Because when you look at other ecosystems, you look at Ethereum or anywhere else out there, then the majority of the volume is against stable coins. And people don't talk about the price against ETH or the price against BNB or whatever the ecosystem is. They talk about it against the USDT or USDC normally. So that's where we need to get to as well. I know it kind of, I suppose it just came about because we had no stable coins when trading started on Cardano first. ADA was the only thing we could match against. But the reason you don't want that long term, or not everybody likes to trade that, is because you have two volatile assets. So if you're trading two volatile assets, if the market starts to dump down, then you're still left. You can't get out of that to get into one pair. So even if you have a bot trading on that pair, trying to market make on it or whatever, you can't go into the stable asset if the market does get triggered. We've all seen that it can only take one event to drop the market by 5 to 10%. I think the price of ADA went up to 49 cents or just over it there 2 days ago. And I went out for 2 hours and came back and the price was down to 44 cents. So these types of things happen. And to get the bigger traders, I think, in and getting themselves more exposed, we need more assets there that are against the US dollar or against stable coins, whichever it is. What's going on? Begin. Another good wallet building on Cardano. So what else have we got to go through? We mentioned there, I think, about World Mobile and the partnership. Josh, did you say you read that one, or one of you did when I was out?
Yeah. Now, did they put out an article on it? I don't know if I read the article quite yet, but like when I heard about the partnership, I immediately understood what it was about, because the like obvious synergy between these two projects is ridiculous. The World Mobile and Zengate Global, specifically to support their Palmyra platform, which if you guys don't know, Palmyra is the platform that connects people in underserved areas around the world, farmers in Southeast Asia and Sri Lanka and parts of Africa. Those people that don't have access to global markets, but they do have commodities that global markets want, Palmyra helps those people to get connected with those people that want to purchase those commodities. So the synergy between World Mobile and that is that, like, those different areas of the world that are producing commodities that aren't able to sell those assets to people around the world that want them, there is a demand for them. World Mobile can help to provide those farmers with the accessibility to the internet so that they can be able to get into platforms like Palmyra and be able to access global markets that way. Like, it's perfect synergy. I couldn't think of a more perfect way to like use a partnership between two different products to symbiotically go about the mission of what they're trying to accomplish. So yeah, I didn't read this article yet, but like it was obvious to me as soon as I saw like what they were going to end up doing and that they were collaborating together, because it's they're trying to serve the same people, the same underserved parts of the world, the people in the world that like actually need change in their lives. Their lives could be changed by blockchain, and they're after the same people, and they can fill different needs while also supporting each other and creating ways for them to serve more people. It's perfect. It makes sense.
Yeah, I think Palmyra and what they're trying to do, from Zengate Global is the main company, and Palmyra is the first platform that they're bringing out anyway.
Yeah,
I really like what they're trying to do. When I talked to Dan here on the channel and we went through different aspects of what they're trying to do and I suppose the opportunities they're giving people, but also there will be lots of opportunities for people to get in on the RealFi side of things and be able to maybe provide the funding for some of these producers that are out there that are currently getting loans but paying crazy rates on local loans with local banks and things like that. And there's going to be a lot of opportunities there for maybe you don't get the crazy high DeFi rates you can get within crypto, but they're extremely volatile. For me, the RealFi stuff is far more, it's just far more appealing because it's a win-win for everyone. You still get to earn yield on the funds that you have. You are helping the farmer or whatever the entity is, whatever business they're trying to do. They're quite happy to pay you and pay an interest rate on it, because it's always going to be lower than some of the local. I couldn't believe some of the local rates that people were paying with 20, 30, 40% interest on loans, on short-term loans. And it's crazy. So I'm looking forward to seeing that aspect of it start to really kick off. I know with IOG, they recently launched RealFi, the project. I don't think we've had that much information on that one yet, though. That's with John O'Connor as the CEO. I'm sure lots of people who are here a long time now will remember a lot of the Africa stuff, especially the Africa special. And John was a fairly frequent guest on Cardano 360 and talking about it there. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that brings. I don't think there has been much on it yet, has there?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, not much from the original announcement, and just the first blog, and I think the first sort of like teaser they had with the website release.
Okay. And Empowa, another project I don't know a huge amount about, but is looking at the same thing, but they're more in line with providing housing or affordable housing from what I know.
Speaking of Empowa, they have a proposal within the RWA category. So I've been scanning that category, right? I'm looking to, just familiarize myself with these bigger opportunities. And there's the potential that they could be partnering with the Nairobi Stock Exchange, right, in order to provide access to RWAs on the stock exchange, all while using Cardano technology. So that's going to be one that I'm going to be diving a little bit deeper into. I'll be talking with the team to find out more about that. But Empowa's been building a lot, and I think they deserve a lot more traction. I realize a lot of these RealFi and a lot of these, real world projects don't tend to get a lot of hype. I know World Mobile's been getting a lot of hype as of late, but I think one that is definitely slept on is Empowa. So I just wanted to add that they're definitely one to keep an eye on, especially if they can get their proposal funded through the first iteration of the RWA category.
That one sounds interesting. And that new category on Catalyst has definitely sprung up some very interesting projects. One I've been keeping a rough eye on since I seen the Barcelona proposal going in and what they're trying to do there. I know some people have mixed opinions on it. To me, there was people asking, why should you fund an entity that big? If they wanted to use Cardano, they should just come in and do it. But to me, it's if they could go to any blockchain and they would be given a grant through different foundations, would give them grants. And that's what Catalyst can be used for. And it's not just for these initial projects that I see. It's when you get these big entities to come in and actually use the chain, then this is just their test project. If things go well, then they start to roll out more and more, and you become their go-to blockchain. So I don't mind paying these bigger sums out to projects like that, because it has to be looked at more as some of the long-term stuff. But I didn't see that in Empowa one. That's definitely interesting. We have Indigo there as well. What's going on, Indigo? Definitely need to do an update fairly soon on the new redemption and everything that's going on there. Hopefully, will we see any new CDPs anytime soon with Indigo? Be nice to see coming in with, when you talk about RWAs and some of the different assets that are out there. Could be interesting to see some new assets there too. But just on RWAs, it's interesting that they're looking at Cardano. I know, I had the name a minute ago. Gone to Polkadot to start.
Twin,
yes. They have decided to move over to Polkadot. They say to start, that's going to be for, and they said that Cardano right now legally can't support RWAs because of the freezing of assets. Was one of the reasons they gave? Is that a reason? If someone else could do RWAs, I know NMKR are doing them with Finese, is it? They're doing diamonds and different things. But I'm wondering how one project is able to do it and one isn't, or any thoughts on that?
It sounds to me, because my understanding is that with U.S. regulation, there is talk of requiring the ability to freeze assets, but it's not yet set in stone, or there's nothing that's materialized out of that talk. So it could be, and that sounds consistent with me. Like Twin is very regulatorily conscious, and they've done everything that they can to keep every step of the way as regulatory compliant as they possibly can be. So it could be them mainly just being careful by starting on Polkadot, and making their way to Cardano once that discussion becomes a little bit more clear when it comes to regulatory certainty in the US. So yeah, that doesn't really concern me. I mean, like, I know that Twin has always talked about being a multi-chain project anyway, so these are probably things that they're looking at the same time as they're looking at Cardano, and they could probably be prepared to deploy as soon as something becomes more clear. But yeah, that's my understanding of the situation. It's not really a material issue yet, but I think that it could be if things go the wrong direction with regulation in the US.
Okay, yeah, I'd say it's on that big long list that I have to look into. That it was just when you mentioned the RWAs there that it came to mind. And just with Twin this year, now this wasn't talking about them, but this was talking about tokenized commodities like uranium and using them as collateral for loans. That's something that really piqued my interest with Twin and what you'd be able to do with gold and tokenizing gold and being able to use that then as collateral to earn on bonds and things like that. It would only be small yield, but there's not many ways you can actually earn yield on your gold right now. So things like that, I think, are really interesting, not just as fancy as some of the big APYs you see across DeFi sometimes, but to me, you have a small bit in each bucket and you play all of these different opportunities depending on your risk scale, depends on which way you put the weight of your portfolio. But we're well over halfway. Any topics or anything you want to drive the conversation towards? Anyone watching, please do share it out. Give it a like. It helps bring more people in. Give us any questions or any topics you'd like to see us discuss. Roughly 20 minutes left. Something like that.
We could talk about Argentina.
Yeah. Josh knows me too well. I was like, man, we can't get on the stream and not talk about all of that stuff. So
for anyone who hasn't seen it, I was doing a lot of talking there. I'll let one of you take it away if you want.
Yeah, I'm particularly excited about this one. I did a video before they made this announcement about, because we were at Consensus and I was sitting around talking to Farid and I was like, dude, President Millet just retweeted Charles Hoskinson, and to his 2.9 million followers, like that's not nothing. That's a big deal. So I went and created a video speculating on, like, what could this partnership be? And the theory that I came up with was kind of stupid, but I think it got the conversation rolling about, like, Argentina and Cardano. Like, this is like why I love Cardano, because, like, they're actually paying attention to parts of the world that need blockchain more than others. Like Argentina, out of all of the different countries in the world that has been absolutely leveled by an overreach of government control, that have been destroyed by inflation, Argentina is at the top of that list. Yeah, so, like, it's very clear to me that Cardano has their head on right. That they're paying attention to parts of the world that need this. This is the solution that they're actually trying to solve. They're trying to solve the problem of centralization in the world, and they're collaborating with like the right people around the world that realize that this is an issue. It's out there solving real world problems, and I don't know exactly what this collaboration will entail yet, but it's clear to me that, like, they're paying attention to the right areas of the world, and that they're actually trying to make a real world difference that needs to be done, that somebody needs to be paying attention to. And it just seems like other blockchain ecosystems are not paying as much attention to that as Cardano is. So I'm stoked about this. I'm very excited about this partnership.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's a good take on it. It's, to me, Cardano definitely looks at different areas than other blockchains look at. And when you try to pick out the narrative, I don't know if Cardano has its narrative yet of the exact why Cardano. Like a lot of people compare it to Solana and all the meme season that's happening over there, or different things that's happening on base. But I think the chains are very different. And right now we can't compete with the speed for Solana and base for them types of activities. But I don't think that's really where Cardano is looking to go, or where the vision of Cardano is to go. Yes, look, if from price perspective, they would help in the short term, but I think long term, the areas they're going for are more long-term plays like this. And like I said about the Catalyst stuff, when you have big entities like Barcelona looking to get funding through Catalyst, it's about the initial phase of it. Like even this, what's going on here, we don't fully know, but this is Argentina paying attention to Cardano as the blockchain that they're looking at. So to me, this is the initial steps. Whatever they do here is building the foundation there for what could happen in the future, because I'm sure we all look that longer term, we see blockchain playing a far bigger role long term in a lot of things. And this is what you want to do, is build these solid foundations. Even we see here with JJ Seiler signed the MOU with the Faculty of Law. This is to host the Cardano Constitutional Convention at UBA in December 2024. So again, this is building a lot of bridges there, building a lot of the foundations with a lot of, let's say, influential people out there, so that when they start to look more at blockchain, the Cardano is in a really good position there. But Farid, what's your thoughts?
I think you guys hit it right on the head. I mean, Cardano and the foundation are taking a long and steady approach. I don't want to sort of echo or repeat what you guys have mentioned, because I think, again, you guys did a really good job. But we're seeing very similar thing in the UAE, right, with Dubai, and deepening partnerships, deepening adoption for crypto and blockchain, where it seems like Cardano's trying to get a strong hold. So yes, there's a lot of people that talk about price action, etc. When you take a look at the longevity, there's no doubt in my mind that Cardano will be the winner over the long run. It's just that, in the short term, there's a lot of FUD, there's a lot of drama to get through. And I think that actually is what ends up wearing on people the most. It's crazy. How many people, at least for me, like I see arguing, bickering back and forth on so many small things where I'm like, guys, if we can just zoom out and understand that, we're here for the bigger picture. A lot of the stuff that we're arguing about now, it's just, number one, not worth it. And the number two, it's a waste of time and effort. I hate to say it that way, but I just see so much drama in the ecosystem internally, so much people fighting us. But when you take a look at what's actually being done, this is undeniable. This is a fact. This is not speculation. The Cardano Foundation is on the ground making things work. And I think we're going to see something like this happening in Dubai, in the UAE very, very soon. Again, I've met with a lot of other projects, World Mobile, also taking a much closer look at that area, right? They haven't announced anything official, but they've got representatives that live in that area. And I don't think it's a coincidence. I think it's because they're very, very open to blockchain technology, and they're very forward thinking. And so even though Argentina hasn't always had this particular stance towards openness in decentralization, with Javier, it's obviously been, a huge 180. And I think that over the long term, they're going to benefit the most, especially as such an early adopter. And then, of course, with Dubai, them also doing a very similar thing, I think that they're really going to put themselves in solid position. So again, not to beat a dead horse here, but it's really good to see the foundation, Emergo, IOG, like they're all stepping up their game. You take a look at IOG, they released, I think, 2 or 3 papers, one of them about Ouroboros Laos, a few others about scaling. You go into other ecosystems, I personally haven't seen foundations that are putting in that much work. Again, I know a lot of people like to give them FUD. They like to say Charles is the CEO, etc. But the approach is finally beginning to pay off. Again, we talked about Emergo earlier, all the partnerships, Huawei, GSR, there's even more coming out. They're finally beginning to ramp up. And then more recently, the foundation striking these partnerships in Argentina. So I think, again, the tides are going to slowly start to shift. Whether that happens in a month, 6 months, a year or two, nobody knows, but I'm here for the long term.
Yeah, I think at this point, the three of us are here. And I would say most people watching a Cardano dedicated live stream or listening in on Twitter are here for the long term. that see where things can potentially go long term, or where we all think that they can do. But one correction on what you said there was there is only one CEO of Cardano, and that's Rick McCracken. He has given that title over on Twitter many times. It isn't Charles. But I think that's, you mentioned Dubai there, which we hadn't brought up as well, which is another good one. Did you look at the type of entities, or I suppose a country isn't an entity, but the type of people that the foundation and IOG are targeting with what they're building? They're not looking at the meme coins right now. I think, look, yes, that drives a lot of users, drives a lot of speculation short term. And when, I can't remember which, I think Farid mentioned the scaling, the paper that came out recently, that's once we get that, then we're able to really compete. And we're not going to have sub-second confirmations, but you don't really need that type of thing for on-chain activity. You can have side chains or L2s or different things if you really need that type of activity. If you need that sub-second confirmation and finality, then you can have the other aspects. But for your L1, when we have things like input endorsers, I think that definitely puts us at a really good level to compete with any other chain out there for what's actually needed. You can talk about some crazy numbers of what's possible, but what's actually really needed by the users on the chain will be important, I think. And get your guys' opinion on this. So there's a tweet by Charles saying that with what's in the Treasury, we could aggressively go after the roadmap with going after both scaling opportunities or whatever the big ones are. But would you be in favor of doing something like that or concentrating on one? I would say one side that a lot of people who say we have to go and do this and throw everything at it, the Treasury funds that are put towards activities, and Catalyst is like this too, them funds need to get sold off to pay developers, to pay different things. So yes, we have a massive Treasury, but if we started to deplete that by a lot over the first 6 months of having Voltaire, that short term will have a big price impact. And people think that deplete that fairly quickly to start paying for all these different things in the hope that it puts up the price. Is not everybody. There's a mix out there, but I don't think people consider all aspects of it. But what do you guys think?
I think, I think that I would be in favor of taking a more conservative approach to management of Treasury funds, just because it seems a lot of the times like the people that are coming from that perspective that think we should hurry up and develop scaling solutions alongside other things that are being developed, those people, like that, it's coming from a motivation of either fear or greed or some combination of both. That's fear that Cardano is going to become irrelevant, or greed that like we need to hurry up and be a major blockchain technology that sticks out from the rest of the industry in such a substantial way that mainstream crypto people are looking for. Like we need to be perfect for the next bull run so that ADA can take off. Like that just doesn't feel like to me like a responsible way to be spending treasury funds if it's with that intention. I think that the let's say organic approach to it of continuing to establish these relationships with places like Dubai and Argentina so that we can create solutions that are proof of concept that governments want to utilize so that they come and they adopt those same things. And then since they've already adopted Cardano technology, that can be integrated more into other parts of their governmental structures. That to me seems like the direction that Cardano is going. And that's an organic approach. That's a way that it seems like no other blockchains are really paying attention to, that they're not doing it that way. And with the preservation of our treasury and continuing to grow that direction, we can make that money go a heck of a lot longer if that ADA is worth more, in the longer run of this project. So yeah, I would be inclined to suggest taking the conservative approach. We don't want to just blow it like crazy, right off the bat so that we can hurry up and satisfy those motivations of fear and greed. I think that a lot of the ways, not all of the ways, but a lot of the ways that Cardano has progressed is the right way to do it. So that's my take.
I think, yeah, I think Josh nailed it again. The trade-off though is if we take the organic approach, we don't sell off the ADA, we don't add any more selling pressure, things are going to take a lot longer to develop, right? So it's a very, very fine line between how much do we spend to get our names out there versus how much do we say we're just going to take the slow and steady approach. Because to play devil's advocate here, if we take too long, other blockchains could theoretically come about and get a lot of the market share by spending their treasury to market, appeal, and bring in people into their ecosystems, right? So one thing that I find, and I'm not sure if this is true for everybody else, but it's like there's typically one ecosystem that you interact with more than others. Maybe it's because I'm a content creator and I focus on Cardano that I feel that way. For anybody else, if you guys feel differently, I'm open to hearing about that. But for me, it's like, hey, I've kind of got my roots here in Cardano. Yes, I'll dabble otherwhere or in other areas, but like my main focus is here in Cardano. And so, of course, I would love to see things ramping up here, but not at the expense of prolonged negative price action, to say the least. But as a really good example, it would have been nice to have seen a bigger presence at Consensus representing Cardano, whether that would have been officially through Charles or through the three founding entities or through some sort of marketing budget set aside from the treasury. I could definitely say it would be good to have more of a global presence outside of the ecosystem. I think there's been people that have been talking about this thing, which is the fact that like people in the quote unquote Cardano bubble understand what we have to offer. The problem is reaching people outside of Cardano. So I think that's where we need to sort of begin to focus on. And if we've got to spend a little bit of the funds from there, yes, but let's not go crazy trying to attract people that, and again, marketing is it's a shot in the dark, right? It may or may not work. Very similar to USDC. And I get tossed back and forth in this argument a lot. Even if we bring USDC, nothing guarantees that it all of a sudden is, the fix for Cardano that we've been waiting for the past 4 or 5 years. Like there's nothing to back that up. And so I know there's been ongoing conversations around that, but I've got the same exact feeling around treasury funds being spent on marketing. Nothing guarantees that it's going to work, right? But it doesn't mean that we shouldn't try. And so that's why I say I'm sort of in the middle. I'd love to see us spending a little bit more funds there, but let's not go, haywire trying to spend all of the funds to attract new people when there's no proof that, they may actually want to come and stay. I think when we just take a look at users anyway, you want people that are organic. You want people that are coming to the chain without an incentive because they don't have something like take a look at airdrops and airdrop farmers on other chains. That's why a lot of these chains get a huge TVL, especially when they're brand new, is because people are looking to farm airdrops. There's incentives there. But when people come there because they genuinely want to be a part of the community, they genuinely appreciate the tech, they're more likely to stay in the long term. So again, I know I'm sort of teeter-tottering between both sides here, but I think that there's some benefits, but we also have to keep in mind that there's no guarantees in this space.
Yeah, I'll because I wanted to follow up on this one idea. There are parts of that I definitely agree with. I'm not saying, hey, let's choke it off and not spend any of the treasury funds and start development. I definitely think that there's somewhere in there a responsible level where we should be spending them and a level where it might be overspending. We don't want to burn it too early. But I will say that my perception of how the crypto market as a whole has progressed, and I think that Cardano is at least the minds behind Cardano are a lot in this realm too. That like the squabbling over retail money or like money that's coming into crypto right now, it's like squabbling over nickels and dimes. Like the amount of money that's actually out there in traditional markets, the ones that exist backed by government, the ones that are in huge major companies that are actually looking for strong, reliable solutions to do things that they want to do moving forward. That's where the real money is. I think that mass market, solution based adoption, like that's the real stuff to be paying attention to. And I think that even if it's exciting for us and fortunes are made in bull market cycles, I really don't think that that's a lot of money in the grand scheme of global markets. And that's why I think Cardano focuses on creating these solutions for countries and for governments, and doing things that are a lot more mass scale solution focused. It's because that level is really how blockchains stick around for 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, I think this conversation probably shows that it's not a simple, this is the path we should choose, or this is how much we should put towards whatever. There's a lot of different trade-offs, and Cardano right now has security, decentralization is a very strong selling point of Cardano. For me, I want to see us get faster. We don't have to get as fast as the other chains, but we need to step up the scaling, in my opinion, to be able to attract retail users that right now, the majority of retail that are coming in, they don't really care about what's going on underneath in the blockchains or what's happening. They're coming in, they see the prices going up. Farid mentioned earlier on about, I think, last October, November. Since then, the views on channels started to really go up and have started to tail off over the last while. And if you look at the charts, you can nearly chart that on the Bitcoin or on the ADA price, that as the price goes up, more people get interested. So the people that are coming in, a lot of them are just interested in that side. So I think I'm hoping there's simple things we can do. One thing I'll be pushing through governance is looking at block time. Is it possible to bring that down to 15 seconds, even 10 seconds? I don't know if there's different things in there. All blocks right now are propagated within 5 seconds. So can we bring it down? I think we should be able to bring it to 15. Need to get people who know a lot more on the technical side than me to look at it and see, can that go to 10? If we could have 10-second blocks, then instantly you've doubled the throughput of what can happen on Cardano. You're getting faster finality. You're only waiting 10 seconds for your trade. We see DEXs now starting to fulfill orders within the same block that you actually put it into. So potentially you get your trades fulfilled within a few seconds. That starts to become very acceptable for retail users coming in that might think Cardano's slow, that's why they don't use. So there's hopefully simpler wins. Like, that's just a parameter. I know there's a lot of the tech side to look into what's possible while we're waiting for things like input endorsers. I know Phil, when he was on, talked a lot about ZK solutions and roll-ups, which you could build dApps. Once we have this hard fork, you can build ZK solutions or ZK dApps, essentially, that things get rolled up to. So there's lots of different solutions coming, and it's to try and get the balance. And it's not an easy one, but it's one I'm sure all of us will be a part of. And I see Richard was talking there about Catalyst, that you have to vote, or you have to register for voting by the 18th of June. So if you have previously registered for Catalyst, I think you should be okay. You don't have to re-register. But if you have any new wallets, then you need to re-register by the 18th. If you're using the same wallet that was registered before, it doesn't matter about new ADA coming in or ADA gone out of that. There will be snapshots, and that'll be your voting power, but by the 18th. And I think most wallets now have it built in that you can register.
No, actually. They don't? No, that's one of the things that have bothered me to no end about Catalyst, is that it's still very limited about which wallets you can use to register. It's like Datalist, Yoroi. I don't even think Nami is compatible. There's a third one in there too, but like a lot of wallets.
You can, I know.
Eternal, I think that's what it is. Yeah, maybe that's what it is, and that's obviously a big major one that's necessary.
Mm-hmm.
But like, yeah, there definitely needs to be a turnaround there of wallets that are accessible to vote in Catalyst, because people with ADA are not voting because they either have to go through this external process that, yeah, it's not a seamless transition. yeah, that's why I appreciate this question from Richard, is because people definitely need to be made aware that like you have to actively register your wallet through the Catalyst voting app that you can download on either Google Play Store or the Apple Store, and that allows you to be able to vote in Catalyst voting and have a say in which proposals get approved. So it's an active step that you actually have to take.
Yeah, and there's me even assuming that you can do it. So I suppose it definitely is something I need to look into and maybe highlight what you can actually register in, especially on the mobile side. There's a lot more people using mobile now, so we need to have more options there. I know you mentioned Uroi, but there's lots of other really good wallets out there now that people are starting to move towards. So it would be good. And I think even taking it out of the wallets, so the wallets don't have to build that functionality, that if we do have one central place for Catalyst, that you can go in like you log into any other Dapp, you just log into it, you register through that, and then it's all done through there. Because at the minute, you have to register your wallet, then you have to save the QR code and the PIN code you set up, and then you use the Catalyst app on your phone. And it's just not an easy process to go through. So we need to get one central entity. I don't know if IdeaScale, I don't really think IdeaScale is just it either. But even desktop voting would be so much better, that you can go and create your shortlists and you have everything. What's the other site? Donation, really good place for looking at different proposals. You can create your shortlists, but right now you can't vote from that. I know in the future we probably will be able to, but streamlining that process will definitely get more people interested in voting and more people participating as well, because there is a small reward for getting involved in it. Now, it is only very small. People aren't going to earn that much, but you do get some incentive for putting in your time. I see we're just crossing over the hour. Actually, there's one thing I'm going to mention, but I won't get into it here. I'll let you guys give the closing thoughts then. Frank mentioned somewhere, I can't see the comment, about Angel Finance buying Levvy, the Levvy protocol, which is lending and borrowing, was built by the Ape Society. It's one that I'm really happy to see it will continue on within the Cardano ecosystem. I think Farid mentioned in the comments there about maybe a rebrand. I think I would push for a rebrand too, that you do rebrand it and make it completely their own. That there'll be some people mightn't use it because it was associated with the Ape Society, and look, they've moved to base. I hope things go well. And I am glad to see Levvy here, because it is a bit different than the other lending and borrowing protocols we have. Things work a bit different. You could kind of treat it like options at times, the way things go, and liquidations and things like that. But that's another video. But just to mention that Levvy will be continuing on, and Angel Finance, not a project I've looked into, but it's great to see that they've taken it over. So I'll hand it off to you guys to give some closing thoughts or any other topics that you wanted to cover.
Yeah, I'll jump in first, and then I'll let Josh give us the final words here today. I just wanted to add a piece about the streamlining process for Project Catalyst as my closing thought. So, interesting enough, IOG actually put in a proposal to streamline the entire Catalyst process, and they've dubbed it Catalyst Voices. So it'll be a one-stop shop platform. It's already been funded. It was approved in funding round number 11, I believe. And they're aiming to finish that project in January of 2025. So they've gotten over a third of their funds requested, which was 840,000 ADA, roughly around $400,000 US at the current price of Cardano or ADA. So I think for me, it's something that they obviously realize as well. It needs to be better. We need to replace IdeaScale. We need to stop having this fragmented system where you've got to go to like 3 or 4 different platforms in order to make sure that you're participating in this. And I think Lido Nation has done a good job so far of like aggregating a lot of that information up until now. But now that, Voices is being built, I'm excited to see how that shapes out and how that pans out in the future. So again, it's always a pleasure to join you guys here. Excited to, finally get back to our normal scheduling up until I think we've got Rare Evo. So looking forward to jumping back on you in a couple of weeks.
Nice one. Yeah, I always appreciate your time and the conversation here. I enjoyed the conversation and learned lots going through it too. Josh, closing thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I've said it before. I'll continue to say it. Cardano's not going anywhere. We'll still be here in 5 to 10 years because we're creating. Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, like I don't pay all that close attention to the price. We're here to change the world, and I think that's what's happening is we're creating solutions that the world actually needs, paying attention to stuff that the other ecosystems are not paying attention to. We are built different, we do things different, and I think that's why we're going to act different than the rest of the industry will. And I'm proud to be a part of it, and conversations like these only further reinforces that thought for me. So I'm excited.
Nice. Josh, thanks again for your time as well as Farid. Anyone that has stuck with us for most of it or part of it, do appreciate it. On your way out, do hit that like button or share it out. It really does help push the content out to let other people see different types of conversations around crypto and what's going on. Hope you guys got some value from it. We'll be back here next Tuesday or Monday, 2 weeks. For another conversation around Cardano and whatever the topics are between now and then. Josh and Farid's channels are both in the description. I'm sure you're already subbed, but if not, make sure and go and do that after and click the sub button here if you haven't done so. Thanks for watching, guys, and we will talk to you soon.